Hi, I'm John Townsend, and this is the first episode of many that we will be producing on food preservation techniques. We'll be posting these on and off for the next couple of months. Today's recipe is called To Keep French Beans All Year, and it's from Susanna Carter's 1796 cookbook, The Frugal Housewife. Thanks for joining us today on 18th Century Cooking. We've had many people ask us to produce videos on 18th century food preservation techniques, and we've done a pemmican series in the past and also a salt pork video. Before we proceed with this video, I really want to give a word of warning on food preservation techniques like these. We know so much more today about food pathogens and improperly preserving foods, and doing it improperly is downright dangerous. So make sure to use caution whenever using these kinds of food preservation techniques. In our research, we found that there are 7 or 8 broad categories of food preservation techniques. There's salting, whether a dry salting or a brine wet salting technique, or there's curing, and also there's pickling, which uses vinegar as an acid. There was also potting, where meat was cooked, shredded, and then covered up with a layer of suet or clarified butter to protect it from the air. There is also drying and preserving with sugar, as well as fermentation and also a very primitive form of refrigeration. The recipe from Susanna Carter that we've chosen today uses just plain salt to preserve green beans. And normally you would think of salt as a meat preservative, but here we're using just plain salt for vegetables. This is a very easy recipe. It calls for a large stoneware jar. You'll want to either use a stoneware jar or a glass jar. Redware is probably too porous for this application. For this kind of preservation technique, you really need a crock or a jar. And the jars that we have in our catalog, we've got a 1 quart and a 2 quart jar. These stoneware jars are made right here in Indiana, and they are perfect for this kind of job. I'll make sure to put a link down in the text of this video right to these jars. This is an extraordinarily simple recipe. All we really need to do is layer salt and green beans into this crock. You need to start off with a nice little layer of salt down in the bottom, and then 1 layer of green beans, and then more salt. And then just keep repeating this until you've got your crock filled. So this technique really is based on the idea that that bacteria just cannot grow in this very high salt environment. And there it is. We filled up this crock, and I'm going to completely cover the top with salt. When you're done, put the lid on the jar and secure it by tying on a piece of cloth. Now for the next few weeks, the salt will draw the liquid out of your beans, and the level will go down to about half of what you started with, and that's okay. When it's time to use your beans, they'll need to have the salt removed from them. They're really kind of slushy in here. Let's get them out. We didn't add any liquid. This is all just liquids from that's been extracted from the beans by the salt. And you can see these are just totally coated with salt, and we want to try to remove as much of that as possible before we get them in their final soaking bath. So I'm just going to kind of shake off the salt, and I've got a middle bath here to take off the exterior salt, the stuff that's just clinging to it. And then we'll put them in this little bath to do the final soaking. Desalting these is very similar to salt beef or salt pork. These will get soaked for 24 hours and in this bath, and you'll probably want to change the bath once or twice. And when you use these beans in a dish, you will not need to add salt to it. Even after 24 hours, they're still going to have some salt left over in them. They're best used in something like a soup and not in, say, a green bean ragu, which would probably make them a little too salty. We salted this batch 3 weeks ago. Let's see what these beans are like. This one hasn't been soaked for very long. Very much like a fresh green bean with a whole lot of salt in it. Still, this will be really good once the salt has been drained out. And a great way to have green beans in the middle of winter when we don't have access to fresh green beans. Make sure to stay tuned as we come up with more episodes on these food preservation techniques. If you're interested in this particular recipe, there'll be a link down in the description text of this video, so you can check that out. Thanks for watching. If you're new to our channel, I want to welcome you. You can subscribe by clicking the button right up here. Also check out our related videos. Thanks so much for watching.